Spoilers galore! In this video I reveal some of the changes made in the new rulebook. Hello and welcome to yet another video here on the YouTube channel STF Wargaming Studio. My name is Andreas Norwegian Viking and this is my rules review of the new edition, well, the first edition of Middle-earth strategy battle game, but the, should we, 6th edition of the game so far. Of course you have the Fellowship, 2 Towers, Return King, the Blue Book, and then of course the 5th was the Hobbit. Yeah, so my point with, I think, these videos, because I think I'm going to break them down into several parts, is to show you the, or talk about, I'm not going to show you the book, the inside of the book, because that might infringe on some IPs, but I'm going to talk about some of the changes that were made in the new rules, and get you ready for when you get your new edition, so you can get straight onto gaming. So, first of all, as I've already said in my review of the box set with Wild, that it's a beautiful book. Reading it from cover to cover, it is a masterfully made book. The pages, the pictures used, and where they are in the book. Like, on the introduction page you have a picture of Sam and Frodo setting off on their journey with the quote, "It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to." It is a wonderful quote to start off the book, especially for those of us who have played this game for quite some time. Then the book carries on to introduce you to the concept of miniatures games in general, also the Middle-earth miniatures game as a concept, how to use the rules manual, how to set up, play the game. Explains how the characteristics work. Nothing of that has really changed. It's a more merry note, if that makes sense. It's a more like enthusiastic voice behind the words, if that makes all sense. And then we come to the new first change, which is the anatomy of a profile. So it shows a picture of Elrond, Master of Rivendell. We showed this in the unboxing, and you basically then have numbers correlating with what they are. So of course you have the character's name, the points value, and then you have the first new change, which are keywords. So for instance, keywords are a special way to then introduce other special rules, how special rules interact with each other and stuff like that. So for instance, Elrond, Master of Rivendell, is an elf, is Rivendell, infantry, hero, and hero of legend is his heroic tier, which is another change. So to surmise, Elrond is of course an elf, he hails from Rivendell, he's an infantry, and he's an hero. And obviously changes made to the character can change also his keywords. So if you give him a horse, he will become Cavalry, stuff like that. So all of these things add up together and make the character what it is. Quite wonderful. And then you have, of course, the heroic actions this particular character can use. Elrond can use heroic resolve, heroic channeling, heroic strike, and heroic defense. We'll of course come back what these do and how they work later, but these are in addition to the regular 3 ones. That's move, shoot, and fight. You can always do move, shoot, and fight, no matter what kind of hero you are, as long as you have might points. But the special heroic actions listed on the character's profile sheet is special for that character alone. Not that character alone, but special for that character, so that's additional he can use. They also say that there might be heroes that have their own heroic actions. So we might see models that have heroic actions that nobody else can do. So that's really cool. And also it introduces the active and passive abilities. So for instance, all special rules are either active or passive. So for instance, I'll come onto this later, but it has like a passive ability, which is the Foresight of the Eldar, and it has Lord of the West, which is an active ability, as well as Vilya is an active ability. So, and that kind of changes how, it doesn't change, but clarifies when you can use certain abilities and when you can't. Then goes on to what you need to play, of course. You need models, you need dice and tape measure, you need playing area, you need the books, pens and paper, and cheerfully enough it says refreshments. Biscuits, cakes, and something nice to drink. That's lovely. That's absolutely lovely. You know, the finest tradition of hobbits everywhere, it's often a good idea to have a selection of sensible snacks. That is perfect. So coming on to the rules, we get to the most important rule, and you must remember that this is a game. No matter how competitive we are and how enthusiastic we are when playing, we shouldn't make the game less enjoyable for your opponent. So always strive to be courteous, to explain things in the nicest way, and then not, of course, not cheat. But everything else, like play fair and play nice. And if there's an argument, best way to decide is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 between the two players. And then afterwards you can resolve the issue by further reading rules if you checked before, which you should of course do, refer to the rulebook. But if something wasn't clarified enough, you could check afterwards and then resolve the conversation after that. Which seems very sensible, but I don't think the most important rule. It has been included in other GW publications like Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar, but it hasn't, I think, been introduced in the Middle-earth franchise. So it introduces the basic principles, which are good versus evil. So the whole book, as it is, has the concept of good versus evil. Obviously, when you play a competitive game or a match play game, that changes a bit, because then, of course, you are good and your opponent is evil if you play blue on blue. But, of course, these things always have exceptions. Introduces the words of cocked dice. So if a die isn't flat, you should re-roll it, and stuff like that. Still, you can't re-roll, that's good. And yeah, it basically clarifies a bit about line of sight, because I think the one in the Hobbit rules manual, it didn't have the best wording on line of sight. But it hasn't changed at all. It introduces the concept of directly away. That's also important for future reference. So something has to move directly away from the originator. So the turn sequence hasn't changed. That's what it is. It still says that in scenario play, unless otherwise specified, good always start with priority. That's nothing new. Priority phase, still the same as ever, but then it has a few clarifications when it comes to like control zones, charging. It has some clarifications on like terrain. So it's just better. I think it's just written better in my view. There is a few changes, funnily enough, to the climbing rules, which I found very interesting. So first of all, I'm not sure if I've played this wrong all these years or this is something new. I didn't check because I didn't have an old enough rulebook available at the time of recording this. But when you climb, when you start climbing from ground or from a level where you can stand, if you fail your climb test, you'll still be able to, you'll fall to the ground and you'll be prone, but you'll not take damage. Similarly, when descending, you do a climb test, but if you take only a falling damage of strength 3 for each inch taller than the actual model. So that means that, of course, what we've always done is, like, I'm jumping over this obstacle, fail, and you take falling damage. Or I jump down this ledge, I failed, I take falling damage. And you always measure from the height, from the ground up, and then that's how many. But now you actually have to infer how tall the model is, which is fantastic because it makes sense, in my world at least. So this is really cool. So the next new change is prone models. So prone models are not laid down on the battlefield, and there are several reasons for these. Of course, the reason they give in the book is that to avoid scratches, damage to paint jobs, etc. But I do think the real reason is clarity when moving and engaging with prone models. Because what's always very, very tough is when you charge a prone model, when you interact with a prone model in any way, where is the actual prone model? Where is his base? Because the base size doesn't change. The prone model still have a base size, and the model itself is not where you charge it. You charge the base. So of course I've heard horror stories about people arguing that you could charge the pike of a warrior because it's part of the model when it's prone, and that's just not the case at all. You have to be sensible, but now it's at least clarified in the rule set, in the main rule set. So yeah, and it's also, I don't know if this has been included in previous editions, but jumping over prone models. So you can do jump tests as normal, and if you fail, the prone model is a friendly model, then the jumping model just fails the jump test. If you fail the roll and the prone model is an enemy, the jumping model must instead charge the prone model. Which is fantastic because, alright, I'll try jumping over this model and get in to the other model on the other side. But if you fail, there's no drawback because you just charge the other model instead. You get all charge bonuses. So that's wonderful. Alright, so when it comes to like shooting, other than the line of sight interaction, which has been clarified, there's no real new stuff in there, except for one thing I wanted to point out, which is reminding myself again and again and again that the in the way chart is used wrong. All the time, everywhere I look, everyone I play uses, even myself, I use the in the way chart wrong. Unless I suddenly remember. It's not something I remember maliciously, but it's like there have always been a few ones where the in the way is on 5+, and there's always been a few ones where the in the way is a 3+. But everyone just uses the median, which is a 4+, for everything. So for instance, fortifications, large rocky outcrops, windows and doorways are 5+. Walls, rocks, tree trunks, sturdy fences, intervening models and elevated positions for combat are 4+. That's the normal one, which everyone uses everything for. And then flimsy fences, bushes, crops and long grass is 3+. So obviously people just use this wrong, and I really think this adds a bit of extra tactic to what kind of terrain you have on the table. But I seem to forget every time as well, so it's yeah, it's not difficult to see why people forget it. But new edition, try to learn the new rules. So yeah, wound chart hasn't changed. That's exactly the same as it's always been. Maximum of 3+, and strength 1 can't harm defense 9 and 10 and so forth. 6s by 6s to wound, stuff like that. The core rules of the game haven't changed at all. Alright, so rolling to wound isn't different. Resolving fights. There's one thing I think maybe is a new thing as well. So it states when resolving a fight, you do the duel roll, the loser backs away, the winner makes strikes, and remove casualties. It's a similar thing, but it says here specifically that when if a loser is at the edge of a vertical drop with nowhere else to back away to, must move off the edge. If the drop is equal to or less than the model's height, they suffer no damage. If the drop is greater than the height of the model, then they may suffer falling damage. See page 31. So referring back to the falling damage. And I've always thought that you resolve the strikes when backing a model off a ledge and then take falling damage. But this isn't the case. So if a model is dead hard but is trapped against ledge, it can survive better against falling damage than the model it's fighting. So there might be a nice strategy in there somewhere. Right. So no, traps still wins games. Some clarification on barriers and stuff like that. Nothing big. And then there's courage. Nothing really different in that at all. But there are wording changes, like making things a bit more interesting. So on the Cavalry page, there are several interesting notes places. So the warg list is as fight 3, shoot 6+. I don't remember wargs having a shoot value before. On this page it lists the orc as having 5+ shoot, which is correct for the way it is now. But later in the book it lists the orc as a 4+ shoot value, and Minister of the Knight as a 5+ shoot value, and a horse as a 6+ shoot value. So might be typos, but I'm not completely sure. New change. Ponies. Well, going back to an older edition, ponies must again take courage tests when charging. And you get no charge bonuses, and no knock to the ground if you charge with a pony. That's really cool. That's the way it's always supposed to be, like way back in the old Blue Book. So suddenly, Thorin's company on ponies are... They'll make it. They'll of course make it. They are dead hard on courage, but at least now they aren't like dwelling the combat monster on the pony. You need to take a goat now to make him a combat monster mounted, which I find is very cool. So yeah, on page 62 you have a Knight of Minster Earth, which is fight 3, 5+, 3 strength, defense 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, 3 courage. So the basic profile is exactly the same as it's always been, except for the shoot value, which was a 4+ before. Now under that it lists the Orc Warrior as a fight 3, 4+ shoot, and a 3 strength, 4 defense, 1 attack, 1 wound, 2 courage. So the stat line on this one is exactly the same as the one previous in the book, but it has a 4+ shoot. Similarly, the horse and the warg on the page are the exact same profile as they have always been, but with a 6+ shoot. Interesting. Right, so that's the basic rules of the game. That is this little bit. Not much. That's mostly, there's tons of pictures in there, tons of examples, stuff like that, and yeah, it shouldn't take you long to learn the basics of the game at all. So we'll return in the next video released very shortly, depending on rendering time, a few hours maybe. The next video, which will be the rest. So heroes and heroic action, stuff like that, I think we'll do the rest in one go. That should be about this much. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed my my review of the rules so far. And please join us for my next video on the rules for heroes, heroic actions, magic and monsters. Please comment, like, share and subscribe, and please do consider supporting STF on Patreon using the link in the description below. It is a fantastic way for you to support our efforts here at the studio, and it gives us the monetary means to expand, improve and do more cool stuff for you guys each and every weekday, and on the weekends as well. As a reward you get exclusive videos, early releases and much more. So if that's at all interesting for you, you can check out all the benefits in our link in the description. But more importantly, support your hobby.